I did a trip through Europe in a way which I thought would be one of the most intense, cheapest, fastest and most memorable way of doing it. And in this video I will show you how I did it. I will also answer the most frequently asked questions on how to organize your own voyage. How do you travel around Europe? I did my trip by bus, boat, car, plane. But the biggest part with Interrail, by train. You can visit Europe completely with one global pass, or you can just visit one country by train with the one country pass. It all depends on what you want to visit, but I suggest that you combine different methods of transport. Trust me, the possibilities are endless. Which pass should I buy? On the website of Interrail you can find different kind of tickets. It all depends on what you want to visit and how much time you have. For example, I bought the 2-week pass where you can travel 5 days in those weeks. In my experience, I had enough with the 5 travel days, which saved me a lot of money on my pass. And still, I did a very intense trip. I was traveling all the time. But there is also a flexible pass where you can travel as much as you want because there are no limit in travel days. Flexible pass is a bit more expensive than the regular pass with limited days of travel. A 2-week flexible pass is 337 euros, whereas the 2-week pass with 5 travel days is 208 euros, which makes it 129 euros cheaper. And I got mine in sale. So I paid mine 177 euros. Just a quick tip, if you want to be up to date with Interrail, you can follow them on Instagram and you can see if there is a sales promotion. How to choose your destinations. It all depends on what you and your friends, if you have some friends, want to do. For example, I tried to organize my trip by team. For example, I would start with city trips like Frankfurt, and then I would go to more cultural destinations. Afterwards, I went to natural parks, big forests, and be more surrounded by nature. And at the end, I just wanted to relax, so I chose one of the islands with the best beaches to put my ass down. I also made a video about my Interrail trip. If you want to watch it, go check out my channel. You can see all the destinations that I did. What are the essentials that you need for your trip? Oh, wait. Just before starting to travel, go back to this video, to this moment. You will thank me later. You're welcome. Important documents such as ID or passport, your driver license, also an insurance. Make sure to check in your country if you can, for example, receive the same blue card as we get here in Belgium. This blue card is like an insurance if something happens when you're traveling in Europe. And also, of course, your card with some money on your bank account. But if you're traveling by train, it means that you don't have that much money on your bank account. So why do I even bother? Your flight tickets, if you bought some reservations that you had to print out, for example. Oh, and by the way, don't forget to bring a pen with you because the travel pass, you have to write down everything by yourself. So without a pen, it would be quite hard. And don't forget to make a copy of all those things and to bring a copy with you. Very, very important. I personally needed those copies that I made. I even made 2 copies to make sure. So I made a copy of a copy because for renting a car, they took our ID card. For 3 days, we were driving around without an ID card in Croatia. So if the police stops you or something is happening, well, at least you have a copy. And also on the other side of those copies, you can write down phone numbers in case of an emergency if your phone gets lost. And last but not least, bring enough cash with you. I calculated 20 euros per day, so I brought 300 euros in cash with me. And I tried to hide a little bit of money in my bag and also another part in my wallet and in some clothes. So if I lost anything, I could still have some other backup money. Also on my bank account, I had enough for emergencies, but I tried not to touch it too much. Also in some countries like Croatia, they don't use euros. You have to pay in kuna. Check out the exchange rate so you have an idea on how much money you have to exchange on the spot. Also, if you're planning on renting a car, it's better to have a MasterCard or a Visa with you. Well, and that's about it. Which gadgets to bring? I would advise a small pocket camera, such as a GoPro, a book that you can read while everybody is asleep, earplugs, headphones. Also, a quick tip. If you have Netflix, install Netflix on your phone, you can also download some movies and episodes so you could watch them offline. Because even in hotels where there was Wi-Fi, internet just sucked so badly, it was just better to watch some movies offline. If you can download legally, of course, some movies on your phone, it's really a lifesaver. You should bring some games with you because you will spend hours and hours and hours in a train. So you could play with your friends. For example, you know. Get it? You know. No? That's why I don't have any friends. Okay. Hotel, hostel, Airbnb, apartment. What to choose?
Well, you're in the right place, because here you have the best recommendations.
If you're traveling with friends, all the options are good. Now, if you want to meet more people, a hostel is a good way. Also to reduce the cost to a maximum. But if you want to have a little bit more comfort and you want to have a private accommodation, I would suggest an apartment or a hotel. Especially if you are with friends, an apartment can be very cheap because you can just divide the costs by all of you. Sometimes the price difference between a hostel and an apartment or a hotel is very small, so make sure to always check if there is a hotel or an apartment nearby that offers more or less the same price, which can give you a bit more comfort. While organizing this trip, I used for the first time Booking.com and Airbnb. And I'm going to explain a little bit both of those websites. Airbnb was very easy. Everything went smoothly, the website was easy to use, and the hosts were perfect. They gave us tips on how to discover the city, because normally those people live there nearby and they know the city very well, so they can give you like really good advice to discover the cities as a local. And with Airbnb, it's really easy to get in touch with the host immediately when you reserve the accommodation. You can contact them by email or by WhatsApp. I was so amazed that those people answer so fast and they were so friendly. Booking.com. For each destination, I always looked on Booking.com. And because I reserved so many hostels, hotels and apartments on that website, I received a new status called Genius. And afterwards, I had a lot of discounts, like really a lot of discounts on all the reservations I made afterwards. I could really reduce the price even more. One more thing, if you see that the accommodation has the option to cancel it later if your plans change, book it immediately. I even booked 2 hotels in the same city. It's so easy to cancel if you have the condition on your reservation that you can cancel it before a certain date. And you're not sure yet if you want to go to that city or if you want to stay in that hotel or in another one. You can just book both and just cancel one later, or you can cancel both later. Only if there is the option to cancel. So make sure to check if there is the option to cancel, because I'm not going to pay.
You didn't read the agreements of the thing, huh?
And once it was cancelled, I always had my money back. However, if you wait too long, chances are big that those good price quality accommodations with great locations are completely unavailable later on. Should I travel with night trains? Night trains are a great way to travel a long distance while resting. Now, it depends if you want to have a little bit of comfort or not, because in those night trains you can reserve a seat or you can reserve a private cabin with a bed, which is called a sleeper. Now, I personally reserved a sleeper and it was okay for resting in a bed, but it was not luxury. In Germany, it was very expensive to reserve a sleeper. I paid 148 euros for a 6-hour trip. I have the ticket right here, which is very expensive if you know that my Interrail ticket, my Interrail pass, was 177 euros. So this is almost the same price as my Interrail pass. However, in Croatia, a sleeper, the same sleeper also for 2 people, is 50 euros, which is much more affordable. What is the 7 p.m. rule? If you already did some research, or you didn't yet, because you're doing your research right now while watching this video, you probably already heard or read something about the 7 p.m. rule to win an extra travel day. And if you're not familiar with that, I will explain you now. Imagine that you have a train leaving at 7 p.m. or later on August 19, and you arrive at August 20 after 4 a.m. Well, the rule said that you only have to write down on your path the 20th of August in this example. That means that you win an extra travel day, so on the August 20 you can just travel more. However, you have to be very careful because in my experience I even lost a day of travel in my planning because of this 7 p.m. rule, because I misunderstood the rule. Let's see with an example how it happened. I had to take 2 trains, so I wanted to use those 2 trains on the same day. I wanted to use the 7 p.m. rule, so I checked the first train that was leaving after 7 p.m. It was at 7:30. I arrived at 11 at my first stop, and 30 minutes later I had to take a second train from 11:30 p.m. until 5 a.m. The problem is that the first train was actually not in the 7 p.m. rule because I had to leave that train before 4 a.m. So I stepped out at 11 p.m. So it was actually still August 19, and I had to write down, oh, I took a train on August 19th and also the one on August 20th to take the next train. How to see and how to check, is my seat reserved? So before unpacking all of your stuff in the train, make sure to see if your seat is reserved or not. I try to avoid trains with reservations to reduce the costs, but the problem I encountered is that some seats were reserved and some not, and I didn't know which one was. I wish someone had told me this sooner, but you can see on a little screen or a little piece of paper on the seats or above the seats where there is a reservation. Now, it's not just marked with reservation, it's just marked with the cities that it's reserved. For example, imagine that you're taking the train that goes from Paris to Amsterdam, and if you see on your seat Brussels, Amsterdam, that means that once you get to Brussels, people will take your seat and they go further on to Amsterdam on that seat. So you can take the seat, but only from Paris to Brussels. If you don't want to have the same problem as I had, well, you can just reserve your own seats, and then it's obviously that you can just sit there at your designated place. I will put a link on the description below where you can reserve all your seats or sleepers on Interrail. Also, make sure to make the reservations at least 1 week, or even better 2 weeks, before actually leaving for your Interrail trip, because those tickets have to be shipped over to your home address. It's probably better that you do it early enough, because especially in the summer there is a lot of work for those poor people. They cannot treat your demand the same day as you are reserving your seats. So it does take a while before actually getting your tickets. So do that really on time. How many liters should my travel bag have? A bag between 50 and 70 liters for traveling is more than enough. However, I recommend a bag that you can open completely on the side to have faster access to all of your stuff, instead of a travel bag with just an opening on top. While you're traveling during the day, it's always better to have a little extra bag of maximum 20 liters for traveling during the day. My travel bag costed 100 euros in the store, but I found the same on a website that was already second-hand, and it was only 30 euros, so it's much cheaper. Every day there are a lot of backpacks that are going on those second-hand websites, so make sure to check if you find a decent backpack for a little price. To win space in your bag, you can reserve an accommodation like a hotel, hostel or apartment with a washing machine in the middle of your trip. This will reduce the pack of clothes in your bag by half, because if you use all your clothes until the half of your trip, you wash them and then you use them all over again, you win a lot of space. Also, be smart with packing. There are tons of good YouTube videos on how to pack your clothes in a bag. Also, little bags to separate your stuff. For example, dirty and clean clothes, separate them by using little bags inside of your bag. This is really useful. How to keep things safe. So if you need to check out in the morning in your hotel, but you still want to visit and explore the city you're in, you can still leave your bag at the reception. Otherwise, in almost each train station, there is a locker, a big locker where you can put all your bags in it while you're traveling during the day in the city. Eating out or preparing your own meal. Most of our accommodations were apartments. So we just went to a local store, we bought some food, cooked our own meals, and it was very cheap, very good. But if you don't fancy cooking during your trip, you can just try to find local cheap restaurants, because if you go just a little bit further than the city center, you can find really good restaurants, not too expensive. How to win a travel pass. If you're 18 and you live in Europe, you can participate to the Discover EU quiz. Last time, 15,000 young people won a free travel pass. Is there a cheaper and faster way to travel? Yes. I was even thinking about cancelling this ticket to try out the other way, the other method that I found to travel. But I was thinking, okay, I have the ticket, I will give it a shot, and I will just try to do the Interrail adventure, and I don't regret it at all. If you want to know what the other way of traveling is for an even smaller price and even longer distances, I just suppose that you subscribe to my channel and stay tuned, because that video will come up soon. When I want to. You will thank me later. No, wait, you will thank me right now. Scroll down and write thank you.